Hey guys, welcome back for another video. We got a fun one prepared today. What we'll be doing is we'll be looking at our picks and predictions for our round one of the 2024 college football playoff schedule. We have the playoffs kicking off later tonight. The first time we've had a 12-team playoff in college football history. We have the four highest ranked conference champs. They have bye weeks this week, but we still get to watch the other 8 teams slug it out, trying to get their chance to make it to round 2. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. We're going to break down these 4 matchups, 1 tonight, 3 tomorrow. Try to predict the outcome. Who's going to win, who's going to lose, what the final score will be. We'll also mention the best bets, the money lines, the spreads, the over-unders. If you're a football fan, if you're a sports fan in general, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and get started looking at these 4 playoff games and trying to break them down. The very first one we have kicking things off tonight, December 20th, 8 p.m. on ABC. We have number 10 Indiana, 11-1. What a season they've had. Look great so far. Props to Signetti. He's had this team ready to go. Their 1 losses versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. Yes, they got curb stomped that game. Do not let that lull you to sleep. Do not underestimate the Indiana Hoosiers. This is a really good team. They have the number 2 offense in all of college football, and they also have a top 10 defense to back it up. They'll be playing number 7 Notre Dame, also 11-1. Really, really bad loss. About as worse of a loss as you could have had. And they had that loss to NIU at home. But hey, since then, 0 room for error. They've completely rebounded. Props to Freeman, props to Denbrock, props to Golden. They've had this team cruising on defense, cruising on offense. They have the largest win gap percentage in all of college football. I think they were winning by an average of like 28 points per game since the NIU loss. That was number 1. Yes, the schedule wasn't hard. The only ranked win was versus Army. Army just lost. They're not going to be ranked come the next schedule, but you can only beat who's on your schedule. They still came out there. They took care of business. Right now, Notre Dame, heavy favorites. 70.4% chance to win this game. They are 7.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 51.5. Indiana, like I mentioned, number 2 offense in the nation. They're averaging 43.3 points a game, throwing for 276.9, running for 173.6 yards per game. Very balanced offense. They can throw it, they can run it, and they're only giving up 14.7 points a game. You're getting a really good defensive performance out of Indiana. But what really stands out about their defense is going to be their defensive line. They're only giving up 70.8 yards per game on the ground. That is top 3 nationally in rush defense. This is a really good rush defense. Signetti built it really quick through the portal, but he's added a lot of depth there. This is going to be strength on strength. Indiana, top 3 in shutting down the run. Notre Dame, one of the best, a top 10 rushing team in the nation. Who's going to dominate the trenches? Who's going to dominate the line of scrimmage? That's who's going to get the win this game. Looking at Notre Dame, they're averaging 39.8 points per game. They have a top 10 offense. They're throwing for 203.3. They're running for 224.8. They're only giving up 13.6 points a game. Also a top 10 defense. That defense is really what stands out about this team. Yes, they can run the ball, but it's how they run stop. It's how they dominate at the line of scrimmage. And they have a very, very good secondary. It's hard to push the ball down the field on Notre Dame, both because their defensive line gets a lot of push on you, but also because their secondary just locks things down. They're only giving up 176 passing yards per game. Indiana, Rourke at quarterback had a great season, closing in on 2,900 yards, 27 touchdowns, 4 picks. Leonard for Notre Dame. Leonard is not an accurate passer by any means. He wasn't at Duke. He's not at Notre Dame. But what he can do is he can scramble, he can run, and Love can run the ball. When they have the run game going, that's going to open up that play action. That's when you see Riley Leonard blossom. He's closing in on 2,100 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 picks. Looking at Indiana's playmakers, they have Ellison, they have Surratt, Notre Dame, Love, Collins. Expect a steady dose of Love on the ground. Can you compete with Notre Dame depth-wise for 4 quarters? Not 1, not 2, not 3. 4 quarters of physical, downhill, grinding football. We have Notre Dame winning this one. 28-23, still a very close game. We're going with the plus 7.5, and we're just slightly coming in at the under. In And then now moving on to our 3 Saturday games. Saturday on TNT, kind of a weird channel, but hey, that's the way TV contracts work out. 12 p.m., the first Saturday matchup. Number 11 SMU, 11-2 coming off that ACC loss versus number 6 Penn State, also 11-2. Their 2 losses, one they lost to the Buckeyes during the regular season, and they're coming off of that very, very close loss to the Oregon Ducks in the Big Ten Championship. This is going to be the ACC versus the Big Ten, the 2 runner-ups for both conferences. Right now, Penn State, 67.2% chance to win this game. They are 8.5-point favorites. The over and here is 53.5. Do not underestimate SMU. A lot of people are giving them 0 chance to win this game. Don't underestimate Rhett Lashley and his team. Stone goes out at quarterback. Jennings has stepped in. This team has never looked back. It's what Jennings can do with his legs on the ground, his scrambling ability that can make the difference here. When he takes off, he picks up massive yardage on the ground. Yes, he can throw the ball, but it's the running game that can make the difference, extending plays, getting first downs when you need first downs, especially in those 3rd and short situations. Right now, Jennings closing in on 3,100 yards, 22 passing touchdowns, 8 picks. He also has 5 rushing touchdowns. They're averaging 38.5 points per game. That's a top 15 offense in the nation. Throwing for 273.2, running for 176.1. They're averaging just under 450 offensive yards per game, and they're giving up 20.8 points per game. Very solid defense. Now, looking at Penn State has a top 15 defense, but SMU's defense is more than serviceable, and they're only giving up 93.4 yards on the ground, a top 15 rush defense. They have Rashard Smith at running back. He's closing in on 1,300 yards. They have Roderick Daniels Jr. They have a pretty good wide receiver core. A lot of this is going to come down to Jennings. The amount of pressure Penn State's defensive line can get on Jennings. Can they bottle him up, keep him in the pocket, keep him from being able to get outside, force this into a passing game, into a 3rd and long passing game? That's the formula, the game plan that you want to set for this game. Looking at Penn State, obviously you have Drew Aller. He's the veteran. Backup's gone. He's in the portal. Right now, Aller, you got to stay healthy here. You don't have your backup. That's a massive loss there. He's closing in on 2,900 yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 picks. Maybe this guy goes in the draft if he has a great performance. Word is he's coming back next season. But hey, he performed really well in the Big Ten game. Maybe that's a formula. If they have a good 1 or 2 game stretch here in the playoffs, this might be some of the last games that you see Drew Aller. Right now, he's closing in on, they're averaging 33.6 points per game, throwing for 253.1, running for 202.2. Very successful on the ground. That's where Penn State wants to win. They want to bottle up Jennings in the pocket, keep him in there, but they want to dominate at the line of scrimmage on the ground. This is another team, a top 25 rushing offense in the nation, one of the best 1-2 running back punches. They're going to be cycling those guys in, keeping their legs fresh, 4 to 5 carries, moving them over and over, grinding, running downhill. How does SMU's defense adapt to that grinding 4-quarter running style from Penn State? And they're only giving up 16.4 points per game. Very, very talented on that defensive front. Very aggressive. Allen has a very aggressive game plan here on the defense. They're going to get after it. Maybe that will make SMU successful in finding some shots down the field. They'll get so much pressure on them, that'll leave those guys open in zone coverage, maybe sometimes some easy man-to-man coverage. But that's easier said than done. SMU, their guys are going to get home. They're going to get after it. How does Jennings adapt and perform under constant, consistent pressure over 4 quarters? They only give up 103.5 yards on the ground as well. They have Singleton. They have Allen, one of the best 1-2 running back punches. And let's not forget about Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren is an X factor. You're not going to be able to defend him. Just get that out of your mind. You just have to adapt to trying to keep his catches low and trying to keep his yardage after the catch low. This guy is a beast. This guy is a first rounder. What he did to USC alone single-handedly was amazing. You got to keep your eye on him. So what do we have happening? We have Penn State, this game being, somewhat close, maybe first half, maybe first 3 quarters, but they pull away late 3rd, early 4th, where that physical running style starts to pull away, and you start to see their depth. They win this one 33-21. We have them covering the spread, and we're going to go with the over. And then our next game also on TNT at 4 p.m. Number 12 Clemson 10-3 versus number 5 the Texas Longhorns 11-2. Their 2 losses, both to the Georgia Bulldogs. Right now Clemson the ACC champ versus the runner-up the Texas Longhorns. This is also an ACC versus an SEC battle. Texas, heavy favorites. 80.5% chance to win this game. Very lopsided here. 12-point favorites. The over-under is 51.5. But don't underestimate Clemson. Clemson has a top 15 team morale in big yardage plays. They are pushing the ball down the field. When they make big catches down the field, Klubnik's vertically pushing that ball. Yes, Dabo doesn't want to use the transfer portal, but they have a pretty decent wide receiver core, especially with Williams. If Klubnik has time, they're going to vertically push the ball down the field. Year 2 under Riley, this offense has taken massive steps going forward. When you're looking at Klubnik, he's by far having his best season of his career, closing on 3,400 yards, 33 rushing touchdowns, 5 picks, 7 touchdowns on the ground. This guy can scramble. He can use his legs. If he gets flushed out, he's going to scramble for first downs, but he's always keeping his eye down the field. They love the big play. They love the big pass. However, it's going to be easier said than done versus the Texas Longhorns defense. This defense gets after it. They have a top 10 defense in the nation, a top 5 defense technically, number 3 overall defense. Top 10 in sacks, top 10 in tackles for a loss, top 10 in quarterback pressures. Klubnik's going to be getting hit. He's going to be getting hit often. He's going to have pressure in his face the entire game. This is by far the best defense Clemson has played the entire season. This is not the best defense Texas has played. So nothing's going to surprise them on the defensive side there. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Dabo here, but we know Dabo knows how to get his guys up for one game. He knows how to fire them up. He's been a big-time coach before. Right now, Clemson, they're averaging 35.5, throwing for 284.9, running for 180.8. They can move the ball through the air. They can move the ball on the ground. They're giving up 22.3 points a game. That's just about average. They don't have a bad defense, but it's definitely not good. This is not the Clemson defense of old they had for the last decade. They were known as a defensively line stacked team for years under Trevor Lawrence, under Deshaun Watson. That's not the case right now. There's going to be holes on defense, but Texas, they haven't had a very successful offense this season. It's not bad. Quinn Ewers hasn't looked the same. Maybe we even get Arch Manning this game. We don't really know right now, but they're not moving the ball like they were last year. They were lighting things up last season. Yes, they don't have Worthy. They don't have Mitchell. Still, very talented wide receiver core, very talented running back room, and they had a quarterback, projected first-round quarterback. Right now, Ewers, yes, he's not the same as he was last year, but he's still closing on 2,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 picks, missed a couple games this season. They're averaging 33.6. It's not bad, but to me, it's not national championship worthy. You got to get those numbers up. They have the defense, but they still haven't beat a ranked team this entire season. They've lost to Georgia twice, but you can only beat who's on your schedule. So you can't really hold that against them. They're throwing for 294. They're running for 164.4. But it's that defense giving up 12.5 points per game, number 3 in the nation. That's where the difference can potentially be made. They only give up 163.2 passing yards per game. Clemson loves the big play. Texas is going to try to take that away, make you ground and pound, make you compete with them in the trenches. If this turns into a trench battle, it's going to be a game Texas is going to win. Looking at the playmakers, obviously for Clemson, Klubnik, Maffa closing in on 1,200 yards, Williams closing in on 900 yards, and for Texas, Wisner, Golden, Bond. They have the playmakers. Clemson, they have playmakers as well. They can run it. They could throw it. I have to give the edge to Texas because of that defense. We know what we're getting with their starting defensive line. I have Texas winning this one, 34-23. So I'm still going with that plus 12, and we're going to go with the over. We have Texas making it to the next round. And our final Saturday game, this is two teams that are actually in very similar positions. We're going to have on ABC on December 21st, Saturday at 8 p.m. Number 9, Tennessee Volunteers, 10-2 versus number 8, the Ohio State Buckeyes, also 10-2. Heupel, great offensively minded coach, got a lot of performance out of his team. They had some high highs, they had some low lows. Same thing for the Buckeyes. High highs this season, low lows. Brought back 8 starters on their defense from last season, added to it. They are loaded on the defensive side, the number 1 defense in all of college football. But Tennessee, they're not going to be impressed by that. They also have a top 10 defense. Yes, the Buckeyes have the best defense, but Tennessee's still top 10. Those almost cancel out. So who's going to get the best performance on the offensive side? This game is at Ohio State. Ryan Day has so much pressure on him right now. His seat is so hot. He cannot afford to drop another game at home. They lost to Michigan last game. They were 20-point favorites. They lost that. That was a pathetic loss. There's no excuses for losing to a depleted Michigan. Again, was this the 4th straight year He has to win this game. He can't lose to Michigan and then lose to Tennessee again the very next game, both at home. The pressure is on. Right now, the Buckeyes, 65.5% chance to win this game, 7.5-point favorites. The over and here is 45.5. Looking at Tennessee, obviously Nico's there at the quarterback position, closing in on 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks. Those first couple games this season, Tennessee was lighting things up on offense. Then they got an SEC play. That completely went away. Yes, they were still serviceable, but you saw a massive step back on the offensive side once the step up in competition went up. Now, Nico, when he's under pressure, he starts to sail balls, he starts to throw balls in the dirt. It's just once he starts facing better competition, you have not seen in any way the same performance by far, and they never rebounded since then. But do not underestimate the players on this Tennessee team and the coach you have calling offensive plays. Very talented team. They can overcome it, but they're going to have to be led by that defense. The defense is going to have to dominate at the line of scrimmage, give them the short field, get them some turnovers, and they can make the Buckeyes pay. Looking at Ohio State, they're going to be led by the veteran Will Howard, closing in on 2,900 yards, 27 touchdowns, 8 picks. He also has 7 rushing touchdowns. He can do things with his legs. He is a mobile quarterback. He can scramble. Ohio State's offensive line's banged up. They're down 2 to 3 starters on the offensive line. Tennessee, they are licking their chops at that. They have a very good defensive front, one of the best in the nation, a top 10. They're going to try to get as much pressure on Howard as possible. He will take off. He is not scared to run. He will take off the moment he feels pressure. He will scramble, roll out, pick up the first down. You got to bottle him up, but you also got to flush him out. You got to flush him into your defensive ends coming off the edge. Right now, looking at the team, Tennessee, they're averaging 37.3, throwing for 240.1, running for 232.5. Very, very balanced. Probably the most balanced team in the nation. They're giving up 13.9 points a game. That is a top 10 defense right now. They get after it. Looking at the other side, the Buckeyes are averaging 35.5. These teams are practically even there, throwing for 260.6, running for 169.2. They were really successful running the ball first half. Then those injuries started kicking in on the offensive line. So those numbers have come down a little. But they have one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver core in the nation. The number one defense only giving up 10.9 points per game. This game is going to be decided at the line of scrimmage in the trenches. It's going to be trench warfare. Both teams very successful in shutting down the run. Looking at the playmakers, Tennessee, they have Dylan Sampson. He could be the X factor here, closing in on 1,500 yards, 22 total touchdowns. Video game numbers, they have Thornton Jr., Squirrel White. Looking at the other side, one of the better 1-2 running back punches as well, just like Penn State. Quinton Junkins, Henderson, they can cycle those guys through, keep them fresh. But it's that offensive line. How does that depleted offensive line hold up? They have Jeremiah Smith. They have Egbuka. Both of those guys are going to be first-round wide receivers when they come out. So what do we have happening? I think this game's going to be very close. To me, this game is practically a pick. I'm practically a 50-50. I don't see the spread as big as it is personally. Buckeyes have to win this game. To me, they're going to perform. They're going to step up. They're going to win the big game at home, get a win versus the SEC. This is SEC Big Ten, the two biggest conferences battling it out. I have Ohio State winning a close one, 24-21. I'm going with the plus 7.5, and we're just slightly going with the under. So that's our picks and predictions for all of our round one matchups. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you have any comments, please drop them below, and I will respond. Thank you.